In the early 1950s, as the world teetered between the ashes of World War II and the rising tension of the Cold War, a new kind of warfare emerged, one that would no longer be fought in the trenches or across seas, but in the skies. And at the heart of that battle was a jet so revolutionary, so shockingly effective, that it changed the very course of air combat forever. It was sleek, deadly, and fast, the MiG-15. When it first appeared over the skies of Korea, American pilots were stunned. Their propeller-driven aircraft were no match for it, and even the early U.S. jets found themselves outclassed by this mysterious Soviet machine. The MiG-15 was not just another fighter, it was a statement, proof that the Soviet Union could challenge the West not just with ideology, but with technology. It was the jet that made the U.S. rethink everything it knew about air superiority. But how did a country devastated by war manage to create a jet that could strike fear into the most advanced air forces in the world? What secrets lay beneath its swept wings and cannon-packed nose? Today, we dive deep into the story of the MiG-15, the jet that redefined the skies and made America realize that the Cold War would be fought not only with nuclear weapons, but with the speed and precision of metal birds screaming across the heavens. The story of the MiG-15 begins in the aftermath of World War II, when the Soviet Union found itself both triumphant and battered. The Red Army had stormed Berlin, but the Soviet aviation industry lagged behind its Western counterparts in one crucial area, jet propulsion. Germany's wartime research into jet engines had given the world the Messerschmitt Me-262, the first operational jet fighter, and the Soviets were eager to build upon that technology. With engineers from Germany brought into Soviet design bureaus, and with a stroke of irony, the Soviets obtained advanced jet engine designs not from Nazi scientists, but from Britain. In 1946, the British government, in an attempt at post-war diplomacy, sold Rolls-Royce Nene jet engines to the USSR. That engine became the beating heart of the MiG-15. Soviet engineers Artem Mikoyan and Mikhail Gurevich, founders of the MiG Design Bureau, took that engine and built an airframe that was nothing short of revolutionary. The result was a compact, swept-wing jet capable of reaching speeds over 1,000 kilometers per hour and climbing faster than anything the West had at the time. Its simplicity was deceptive. Beneath its clean, elegant design lay an engineering masterpiece that balanced speed, maneuverability, and firepower in a way that no Western fighter of its generation could match. The MiG-15 was a marvel of Cold War ingenuity. Its most distinctive feature was its 35-degree swept wings, a design inspired by captured German research that allowed for higher speeds by reducing drag at transonic velocities. Its compact fuselage housed the Klimov VK-1 engine, a Soviet-built copy of the Rolls-Royce Nene, giving it an extraordinary thrust-to-weight ratio for its time. Unlike American jets that emphasized radar and advanced systems, the MiG-15 was raw, direct, and brutally efficient. It was designed for one purpose, to dominate the skies through speed and firepower. And firepower was something the MiG-15 had in abundance. While American fighters like the F-86 Sabre used multiple smaller machine guns, the MiG-15 carried a devastating 37mm N-37 cannon and two 23mm NR-23 cannons, designed specifically to obliterate heavy bombers with a few well-placed shots. Pilots could tear apart a B-29 Superfortress with a short burst. Its bubble canopy gave excellent visibility, while its high-mounted wings and tailplane design allowed stable flight even at the edge of a stall. The MiG's simplicity also made it durable. It could take hits, land on rough airstrips, and be repaired quickly. It was the perfect fighter for a country preparing for large-scale warfare. But it wasn't just the hardware, it was the way the MiG-15 changed how our battles were fought. It was fast enough to chase, agile enough to dodge, and lethal enough to kill before the enemy even realized what hit them. When the Korean War erupted in 1950, the United States believed its air power would reign supreme. American B-29 bombers had devastated cities during World War II, and early jets like the F-80 Shooting Star were considered cutting-edge. But all of that changed when mysterious silver aircraft began streaking down from high altitude over North Korea, attacking bombers and vanishing just as quickly. The MiG-15 had arrived. It quickly established dominance in a region that came to be known as MiG Alley, the stretch of sky near the Yalu River where the fiercest air battles of the war took place. American pilots were shocked. Their F-80s and B-29s were helpless. The MiG-15 could climb faster, fly higher, and accelerate more swiftly. The U.S. scrambled to deploy the F-86 Sabre, its own swept-wing fighter, to counter the Soviet jet. What followed was a series of duels that would become legendary, the first large-scale jet versus jet combat in history. The F-86 and MiG-15 were rivals in every sense, nearly matched in performance, and the outcome often came down to the skill of the pilot. But the truth behind the MiG-15's presence in Korea was more complex. Officially, only North Korean and Chinese pilots flew them. Unofficially, many of the MiG pilots were Soviet aces, veterans of World War II, sent secretly to fight under foreign markings. Their expertise turned MiG Alley into a deadly trap for many American aircrews. It was here that the world realized air superiority was no longer guaranteed, it had to be earned. The rivalry between the F-86 Sabre and the MiG-15 became the stuff of aviation legend. In the skies above Korea, two ideologies clashed: democracy versus communism, capitalism versus socialism, embodied not in tanks or soldiers, but in sleek jets carving contrails across the heavens. The F-86 had advantages of its own: a superior gunsight, more stable handling at high speeds, and better visibility for dogfighting. But the MiG-15 could outclimb and outturn the Sabre, giving it a deadly edge in vertical maneuvers. Dogfights between the two often became high-speed chess matches where a split-second mistake meant death. American pilots like James Jabarat and Joseph McConnell became aces flying the Sabre, while Soviet and Chinese pilots quietly racked up victories of their own in the MiG. Both sides claimed superiority, and the exact kill ratios remain disputed to this day. What's certain, however, is that the MiG-15 forced the U.S. to innovate. It exposed weaknesses in bomber tactics and pushed jet design into a new era. Without the challenge of the MiG, there might never have been an F-100 Super Sabre, an F-4 Phantom, or even the F-15 that came decades later. The MiG-15, in many ways, was the spark that ignited the jet age arms race, a competition that would define air power for generations. Even after the Korean War, the MiG-15's legacy continued to grow. It became one of the most widely produced jet fighters in history, with over 13,000 units built across the Soviet Union, China, Poland, and Czechoslovakia. It served in more than 40 air forces around the world, from Cuba to Egypt to North Vietnam. For developing nations, owning MiG-15s meant joining the modern age of warfare. It was reliable, rugged, and deadly, the perfect tool for any country seeking to establish air defense. Its design also influenced countless successors, including the MiG-17 and MiG-19, which improved upon its speed and handling. But perhaps the most remarkable aspect of the MiG-15 was its symbolic power. It proved that the Soviet Union could challenge the West technologically, inspiring a generation of engineers and pilots behind the Iron Curtain. In American eyes, it represented a new kind of threat, one that could no longer be underestimated. The MiG-15 wasn't just a fighter jet, it was a message, written in aluminum and fire, that the Soviet Union had arrived as a true superpower. And for decades, that message echoed across every major conflict of the Cold War. Today, when we look back at the MiG-15, it stands as more than just an aircraft, it's a turning point in aviation history. It was the jet that transformed the battlefield, humbled the world's most powerful air force, and ushered in the era of supersonic flight. Its simple yet brilliant design philosophy, speed, altitude, and firepower above all, became the foundation for generations of Soviet aircraft that followed. The MiG-15 proved that technological brilliance doesn't always come from complexity, sometimes, it comes from purpose and precision. Its legacy can still be felt today, not only in museums and airshows but in the very DNA of modern fighter jets. The MiG-15 made the world take notice and forced everyone, especially the United States, to think faster, build better, and fly higher. But as we reflect on its impact, one question remains: if a machine built from borrowed technology could shake global air power to its core, what does that say about the next generation of military innovation? Could history repeat itself, with another underdog nation creating the next shockwave in aerial warfare? Tell me what you think in the comments, and don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more deep dives into the machines that changed the world.